He said she just couldn't stay, but the letters in the safe told a different story. I sat on the floor, sobbing, holding the photo of a woman with my eyes. My earliest memories are just me and Dad. I remember this crooked orange couch we had when I was maybe 4 or 5, the scratchy polyester kind that pissed you off when you sat on it for too long. I used to curl up next to him after dinner and watch those late-night reruns of old sitcoms he loved. Cheers, Taxi, stuff way before my time. He'd sip his tea, always tea, and gently hum the theme songs, and I'd pretend to understand what was so funny about a guy named Norm always walking into a bar. There was such a rhythm to our life, in this quiet, offbeat way. Mornings meant sleep-wrinkled Dad and lukewarm eggs. Evenings meant him squinting at bills at the kitchen table and me making up stories for my stuffed animals. We were our own little orbit, and I guess I never questioned that nobody else was in it. Except, of course, I did. I asked about her. My mom. Not constantly, but often enough that it became a kind of dance between us. Me, kidding not kidding, was she an astronaut? Did she go to the moon and forget to come back? And him, doing that tight smile thing, where his lips would sort of press together like he was forcing the grief back in. She was complicated, he'd say, or it just couldn't work. One time, this sticks with me way too vividly, I asked him on my 11th birthday why there were never any pictures of her, and he snapped. Not like, violent or anything. Just quiet mean. He said something like, photographs don't tell you what someone's really like. And I didn't dare bring her up again for years. The older I got, the more the curiosity soured into guilt. Dad gave me everything. I mean, he worked crappy jobs, long hours. I wore off-brand sneakers while kids at school had Nikes because just getting by was our lifestyle. But I never felt unloved. He came to my school plays. He learned how to braid my hair off a YouTube video because some girl at school told me pigtails were cute. He stayed up late helping me build a solar system model for 8th grade science and hot-glued Pluto even after it wasn't considered a planet anymore. So yeah, asking about her? It felt like betrayal, like I was ungrateful. And when he got sick, slow at first, then fast, that door shut again. Permanently. Lung cancer. Non-smoker. No sense. Just bad dice. He passed 6 days before I turned 25. I was in the room. I was the one who turned off his Spotify playlist when he took his last breath. James Taylor was still mumbling gently through the laptop speakers. I don't remember what his last words were, if there were any. Everything from that month's like a snow globe I keep shaking in my head, hoping the flakes will settle into a pattern I can actually understand. Clearing out the apartment didn't feel real. Neither did finding the safe. It was behind the bookcase in his room. A fake panel behind his dusty collection of NYPD Blue Box sets, and a bunch of old programming books from the 90s. I nearly didn't notice it, except one of the books had a weird warp to it, like it had been moved too many times and then stuffed back too quickly. The safe was small. Combo lock. I didn't even know he owned one. The code was his birthday. Inside, a stack of court filings dated between 1998 and 2001. Letters, some typed, most handwritten, addressed to him but never opened. A sealed envelope with my name on it, in sharp cursive I didn't recognize. A photo. Just one. The photo was of a woman in her late 20s, maybe early 30s, smiling in a way that didn't look remotely familiar, except her eyes. They were mine. It felt like burning, like someone had lit a fuse in my spine. Something old and pressed down inside me broke the surface in that moment. Confusion, betrayal, grief, longing, all wrenching through me at once. I sat down on the floor with all of it in my lap and just lost it. Crumbling sobs. The kind I thought I had already cried 100 times in hospital waiting rooms. Apparently not. I didn't know what to do first. Read the letter? Google her? I opened the envelope. Her name was Jacqueline. She'd been 21 when I was born. She said she wasn't ready, that her own parents weren't supportive, that she'd made mistakes, that she didn't expect Dad to fight for custody the way he did. Some of her words were soft and broken, other parts defensive, almost angry. I thought I was doing what was best, she'd written. I wasn't okay. I didn't trust myself. And by the time I was ready, your father had made it clear he wouldn't let me back in. 25 years, and this was the first time I heard her voice. Through pen ink and maybe bitterness. Maybe guilt. I don't know. She left a return address, though it was from over a decade ago. Some small town in upstate New York. My hands trembled for hours. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next one. But on the third night, just before sunrise, after scrolling blogs about estranged birth parents and watching too many reunion videos on TikTok, I bought a bus ticket. Not because I was ready. I just could not know anymore. The bus ride was this weird liminal space, where time got soft and floaty and everyone around me felt like a ghost. I spent most of a 6-hour trip trying not to rehearse some imaginary conversation in my head. Like, what the hell do you even say to the woman who gave birth to you and then disappeared? Hi. Sorry we've never met. I think I got your nose? Morbid humor. Always my coping mechanism. Every rest stop made me want to turn around. I didn't tell anyone I was going. Not my friends. Not my boss. Not even my cousin who helped pay for Dad's cremation. It felt too raw. Like if I spoke it out loud, it might disintegrate into something shameful. The address in the letter was scribbled across an envelope with a 2012 postmark. For all I knew, she'd moved across the country or changed her name or, I don't know, died. But she hadn't. The house was still there. Pale yellow clapboard siding, overgrown hedges, wind chimes that made this hollow tinkling sound I felt in my chest. I stood across the street like a creep for maybe 15 minutes, clutching my phone with sweaty hands, not knowing whether I was about to meet her or break into tears, and Uber back to the Greyhound station. When she opened the door, everything just dropped out of my body, like gravity recalibrated. She was older, obviously, silver at her temples, lines around her eyes, but it was her. It was unmistakably her. Every feature in the photo lived on her face, just aged forward 25 years. I must have made some kind of sound because she looked straight at me and went completely still. And I swear to whatever forces run this world, she said my name. Immediately. Amelia! Like it was a memory she'd been carrying in her mouth and didn't know she still had. I didn't answer. My throat tightened, so violently I couldn't trust anything that might come out. I just nodded, and everything blurred. My cheeks, the sidewalk, that weird metallic tang that leaks into your throat when you're trying not to cry again. She opened the screen door without a word and held it, waited, and I walked through it. We didn't do a dramatic hug. Nothing movie scene-wise. We sat in her kitchen drinking tea, and I had to laugh because of course it was tea, just like Dad. And I stared at the egg timer on her stove for most of the first 10 minutes because I couldn't look her in the eyes without wanting to scream. She was nervous, hands jittering, voice tripping over itself. I didn't know if he'd ever want to find me. I tried to write again, but he stopped responding. I deserve that. Do you hate me? Do I hate you? What do you want me to say to that? I told her I didn't know. God, I didn't know how to feel. Angry. Sad. Curious. All of it. None of it. My emotions were tripping over each other, like baby deer on ice. I kept waiting for her to lie, to sugarcoat, but she didn't. Jacqueline, and she asked me to call her that, not Mom, told me about things I never knew. That she was deep into an eating disorder when she got pregnant. That she came from a family where you don't talk about those things, you hide them. That her parents made her feel like being a mother at 21 would ruin everything. She walked away not because she wanted to, but because she convinced herself I'd have a safer life if she did. And once Dad got custody, she said, he shut every door behind him. He loved you with everything he had, she said. And I had nothing to match it with back then. That broke something in me. Because she was right. He did love me that much. But he also loved me so hard he couldn't bring himself to share. Or forgive. Or tell me the truth. We sat in so much silence. I started counting the ticking sounds of her fridge. Then she brought out the box. It was an old shoebox, edges torn, full of little bits of me she'd saved or printed. A picture cut from the local paper of my high school piano recital, my old kindergarten class photo she'd clearly paid someone to find, even a few Facebook screenshots where I was tagged in group photos by name. I didn't know whether to be comforted or creeped out. But it was obvious she'd never truly let go, even if she told herself she had. This is all I had, she said, and her voice cracked like a glass under hot water. I was just watching from the other side of the glass. I didn't cry, which surprised me. I think I was just too tired. I stayed for maybe 2 hours. Before I left, she gave me a small stone pendant on a necklace chain. She said it had belonged to my grandmother, her mother, who was cruel more than she was kind, but still loved fiercely in her own broken way. I didn't promise anything. Not a reunion, not forgiveness, not a future. But as I sat on the return bus, turning the necklace over and over in my hand, I didn't feel rage, or even grief. I felt something quieter, sad but clean, like breath after a long underwater dive. After that day, I didn't rush into contact with her again. We wrote emails, tentative, polite, like two people circling the idea of family. I don't know where it's going, and I'm not forcing it. But here's what I do know. Every question has an echo, and sometimes it doesn't get answered the way you want. But it's something. It's something. The weirdest part is that when I got home, I didn't tell anyone where I'd been. Not even weeks later. This huge, life-changing detour in my story, and I just shoved it in a mental drawer and went back to work like I just had a long dental appointment or something. I guess I needed the space to grieve. Not just my dad. I'd done most of that already, and probably will keep doing it forever. But I had to grieve the story I thought I knew. You grow up inside a version of yourself and your family, and even if it's full of holes, it feels stable. Like insulation. And then one hidden box and one 60-year-old woman's watery eyes demolish everything you thought was true. Not by being cruel, just by being real. I contacted Jacqueline again 6 months later. It was Mother's Day, which felt ironic and also completely unplanned. I didn't even realize the date until after I hit send. It was just a, "Hi, hope you're well. I've been thinking about you." Nothing heavy, but she replied within an hour. She said she hadn't expected anything from me, not ever. That she still read the one letter she'd written for me every couple months, the one she never got to send because your father wouldn't let me. I asked her to send it. She scanned it and emailed me a photo of it that night. Reading it felt like standing too close to something burning, like heartbreak held steady and quiet in a few paragraphs of blue ink. She talked about the night I was born, that I looked like a question mark wrapped in a hospital blanket, that my eyes opened in the first few minutes and just stayed open, staring, like I already didn't trust the world. "I was so scared of breaking you," she wrote, "and I was already so broken myself, I didn't know where my cracks ended and yours would start." I didn't respond right away. I couldn't, but it haunted me, that sentence especially, that idea of inherited brokenness. Because I'd always felt the hairline fractures in myself, haven't you? Those weird little voids that can't even be named. Like your soul walking with a limp you can't explain. I started therapy. For real this time. Not the student center kind I went to in college when I was crying too much and thought maybe I was just anxious. Like, sat down, unpacked shit, talked about abandonment and silence and identity and resentment until my stomach ached kind of therapy. One morning, my therapist asked me if I thought I wanted Jacqueline in my life long term. And for the first time I said, maybe. But not how I thought. It's not a fairy tale reunion. No slow-moving montage where we make gingerbread cookies and braid each other's hair. She's not going to be my mom, in the way that word was supposed to mean. She missed the recital seasons, the birthday sleepovers, the night I got my first period and freaked out, and Dad handed me a heating pad like it was a first aid kit. But she's here now, and she talks to me like a person. Not a child, not a symbol of past mistakes. Just me. She came to visit once this past spring. Stayed in a motel near my apartment because it felt healthier than staying with me, her words. We went to the botanical gardens, and I showed her which plants my dad used to grow badly on our fire escape. She laughed when I told her how he once overwatered a basil plant so hard the roots floated. He used to do everything at 110%, she said, shaking her head but soft. Fond. That was one of the few times we talked about him. It's a weird tightrope, this man who shut her out but raised me with a kind of obsessive devotion. I think we're still both working out how to grieve him at the same table. No one teaches you how to mourn someone you both loved and were hurt by. At one point in the gardens, she reached for my hand. I let her hold it. And you know what hit me hardest? Her hands are like mine. Same bone structure. Same temperature. I didn't expect something so little to mean so much. Anyway, there's no big finale here. Not really. Jacqueline lives 3 hours away, and we text every couple weeks. Sometimes she sends me photos of old recipes, or her cat lounging in weird positions. Her texts end with too many ellipses, and she uses emojis in that boomer way where you're not sure if she's being playful or just confused. I love it. It's human. Sometimes I cry anyway, like in the middle of a random Tuesday, because I'll see a dad holding his daughter's backpack as she ties her shoes, and I'll remember how mine held so much, too much, without ever letting anyone help. I still talk to him. Not out loud. More like, internally. I imagine him in quiet moments, watching. Approving or not. I don't know. I'm trying not to idealize him, even in death. He was flawed. But he was mine. And I'll never stop loving him for how hard he tried. There's a photo of me as a baby, one of the very few I have from back then, that Jacqueline had tucked in that shoebox. I printed it out and framed it. It sits beside a candle on my nightstand now. The baby in it has wide eyes. Like she already didn't trust the world, and maybe she was right not to. But somehow we're okay now. Somehow.